Hi everyone, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Revelation 12 sign, and as you all know, the expected time for the fulfillment of this sign would be on September 23rd. I have it set to the current time, which is September 15th, but if you move it up to the 23rd, you can see what's supposed to be the Revelation 12 sign, because the moon will be at Virgo's feet and the sun will be in Virgo, and you also have this alignment over here between Regulus, Venus, Mars, and Mercury. But if you go back to the current time, you see that you already have an alignment taking place here with Venus, Regulus, Mercury, and Mars. They're all in alignment presently. And then around the 20th, there's going to be a conjunction between Venus and Regulus. And so I just wanted to say that I don't have anything against the September 23rd sign. The only objection that I had was mainly concerning the constellation Leo. I don't believe that that can be construed as being a crown for Virgo. I believe that's too big to be a crown. And I actually watched a really good video. Well, this is one I just watched this morning by Steve Fletcher, but last night I watched one that was by Nine Nania. And over here she brings up another possibility of what could possibly make the 12 stars of Virgo, and she's saying that there's actually a cluster of stars that forms a halo that's within the constellation Virgo, and it's known as Messier 87, and as you can see over here it says orbiting the galaxy is an abnormally large population of about 12,000 globular clusters, and so these form a halo around Virgo near the head of Virgo. Also, if you look at the word crown in Revelation 12:1, you see that it's the word Stephanos in the Greek, which means a wreath or garland, which was given as a prize to victors in public games. It's the wreath that was given to the overcomers, and I can talk a little bit more about that later, but as you can see, it's a wreath or a garland. It also means to twine. This all ultimately has to do with DNA. I've talked about how the crown or corona borealis in particular seems to represent DNA, the way it was depicted in the David Rumsey map collection, and I did a video about this some time ago, but as you can see, it was depicted with two intertwined ribbons that look like DNA strands, which to me was confirmation that this has to do with DNA, and also did a table on it that seemed to confirm it as well. But I wanted to point out another possibility as well, and incidentally, I'm seeing evidence for September 23rd. I'm seeing verse 23 come up quite a bit over here. Comes up in Romans 8. But before I get into that, I just wanted to show you why I pulled that up. Because in Isaiah 66, it says, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard such things? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. So it's Zion who gives birth, but it's also the entire earth that gives birth. So another theory that I had is that the 12 stars could be the 12 constellations. And this is one of the reasons why I was surprised that it didn't happen on 9/11, because that's when it would have completed its circuit as the sun moves along the ecliptic plane, beginning with Virgo, which is how it's depicted by the Sphinx as well. It's got the head of the Virgin, and then it goes all the way around and ends with Leo, and then this is where they would bind together right in the middle of what appears to be the capstone over here, or what I believe is the capstone, which would be Coma Berenices. And as you can see, it's got, I wonder what this is right here that's moving. That's interesting. Never seen anything move that quickly on here, but anyway, this star right here would be Diadem, the Alpha star, which means crown. Apparently that's an artificial satellite. That's what it says here. It's interesting, there's another one going this way now. That's another artificial satellite. Never noticed anything move on here before. Anyway, sorry for the interruptions. Okay, so the point that I wanted to make is that I was surprised it didn't happen on September 11th, because that's when it would have made its circuit around. And as you can see in Psalm 19, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of heaven, and his circuit to the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. And that ends up in verse 14, which is something else I want to talk about. Namely, I believe it represents the Hebrew year 77, because 7 plus 7 is 14, but it also represents the 144,000, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Okay, but first I want to get back to the earth giving birth. As you can see over here in Isaiah 66, it says, can the earth give birth in one day? And then if you go to Romans 8, and it's interesting that it comes up in verse 23, which I just noticed because I just pulled this up. But you can see that over here. It's talking about the earth travailing. It says, for we know the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now, and not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. And that comes up in verse 23. I also recently noticed Habakkuk 2:3. It says, for still the vision awaits for its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. And that's coming up in Habakkuk 2:3. I don't know if that's a hint for a day or not. But there's also Joel 2:30. which says, "And I will show wonders in the heaven and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke." And so that looks like the number 23 again over there, and it's talking about pillars of smoke, which I've come to realize represents DNA, and I think that's why God uses the word pillar. It has the two L's in there, which look like the number 11, looks like DNA. And the next two numbers that actually have to do with DNA would be the numbers 22 and 23. And also wanted to mention that according to this video over here by Leland Jones, the Day of Atonement is actually September 22nd based on the Enoch calendar. He's stating here that that would actually be on September 22nd, and that the sign that we see here on September 23rd would actually be a sign for the Day of Atonement. I also watched this video last night. It's by Midnight Hour Oil, and she's saying over here that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are actually celebrated or commemorated on the same day, and that the Rosh Hashanah trumpet, when it's a Jubilee year, it's not blown until Yom Kippur. So Rosh Hashanah is celebrated on Yom Kippur. So that would take it to the Day of Atonement, which is what Steve Fletcher was talking about in this video over here, that I wanted to talk about his video a little bit more as well. But the Day of Atonement would be September 30th. So it could be that it's celebrated on September 30th, or it could be that the true date is September 22nd, 23rd, and that the Jubilee trumpet is blown then. So I'm not sure of the day or the hour. We just know that it's soon. And I thought it was interesting because what Steve Fletcher had suggested in this video is that the revealing of the Antichrist might be what occurs on September 23rd. And I noticed a scripture over here that was coming up in verse 18. It says, "And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." And so I was a little disappointed because I saw it coming up in verse 18, which would seem to represent the year 2018. So I looked at verse 17, and once again, that seems to be when it begins, because over here it says, "And the 70 returned again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils are subject unto us." And what I've come to realize, something else that I've come to realize, is that the number 70 represents the 144,000. It's actually the Strong's number 144. It's 1440. But if you go to the beginning of this chapter, you see that this is when Jesus sent out the 70 2 by 2. So you would multiply it by 2. And in some translations, it actually says 72. You'll see in the NIV, it says 72. So this would be like the 70 elders that went up Mount Sinai, but then there was two more elders that were kind of set apart. So it's possible that maybe they represent the 2 witnesses, and then in addition to the 2 main witnesses, you would have another 70 times 2. And I think it confirms the fact that this is referring to the 144,000, because the Strong's number just happens to be 144. And I actually noticed that a few days ago. It was when I came across this scripture over here in Jude 1:14. So as you can see, that's verse 14, and it's talking about the Lord coming with 10,000 of his saints. and the Strong's number for 7 just happens to be 144, too. But I'm about out of time, so I'll have to continue in the next video. Thank you.